Hi, this is a GMAT question from gmatquestions.org. If negative PQ is less than the absolute value of PQ, which of the following must be true? Obviously, PQ here is P times Q. It's the product of P and Q. So Roman numeral question, and we have the different options here: PQ greater than 0 for number 1, number 2, and so on. Okay, the real answer choices are here: A, B, C, D, E. Okay. In order to do this question, once again, you must remember the definition of absolute value. I already told you, just to remind you, that absolute value of x could be equal to x, or it could be equal to negative x. Okay? In the first case, that's when x is greater or equal to 0. In the second case, is when x is less than 0 or maybe equal to 0. Okay? Having said that, we are told here, if you choose number 1, that P times Q is equal to 0. Actually, what I'm going to do is this. Before even I attack number 1, it's important to know what it means to say that negative Q minus PQ is less than PQ. So minus or negative PQ is less than absolute value of PQ. It's like saying negative x is less than x. So if negative x is less than x, it means that the absolute value of x gonna have to be equal to x. What? Okay? The absolute value of PQ, just like x here, is equal to PQ, or negative PQ. Think of PQ as playing the role of x. Just like I say here, the absolute value of x is equal to x or negative x. For the same reason, the absolute value of PQ is equal to PQ or negative PQ. But it cannot be equal to negative PQ because that's what you're told. We're told that negative PQ is less than the absolute value of PQ. They are not equal. Okay? In this case, in this question, if you want, the absolute value of PQ, I'm repeating what we're being told here, is greater than negative PQ. It's the same as saying negative PQ is less than the absolute value of PQ. Okay? So, just to rewrite the whole thing, we can say that the product PQ, the absolute value of the product, is greater than the negative of the product PQ. Again, I get this from the question. Logically speaking, therefore, the absolute value of PQ must be equal to PQ. Remember, it can be only two things. It could be PQ or negative PQ. Since it's not equal to negative PQ, it has to be equal to PQ. It's normal. If it's A or B, it's not equal to A, it has to be equal to B. And this is really what's gonna solve the question. If the absolute value of PQ is equal to PQ, this also told us that PQ is greater than 0. As a product, is greater than 0. The whole entity, okay? The absolute value of x is equal to x only if x is greater or equal to 0. Okay? In this case, I could put the equal sign, but I cannot do that. I cannot do that. Why? Because we are told that negative PQ is less than PQ. So P cannot be 0 because we cannot have negative 0 less than 0. 0 is equal to 0. It's not less than 0. We cannot have key equal to 0 either. We cannot have that because in that case also we're gonna have negative 0 less than 0, which is impossible. So neither P nor Q can be equal to 0. So if Q is not 0 and P is not 0, obviously the product here has to be greater than 0, given this work we did here, above. So P and Q, neither of them is 0, so the product PQ has to be greater than 0, has to be strictly greater than 0. I hope you're following me here, okay? Even though in general when you have this, x is greater or equal to 0, but not in this particular question because of this. Okay, hopefully you've been able to understand that. So if PQ is greater than 0, this obviously tells us that number 1 is true. Number 1 is true. And clearly, if number 1 is true, number 2, it has to be false. You cannot have something greater than 0 and less than 0 at the same time. Okay? One of these two has to be false. One of them is true. That's pretty clear, okay? Number three, if PQ is greater than 0, as we know, then the quotient, this is a product, the quotient P over Q has to be also greater than 0. This is math. I mean, if the product is 0, the quotient involving the same entities has to be also greater than 0. Basically, virtually 100% of the time, the product and the quotient have the same sign. Okay, they have the same sign. The only case where we cannot tell is when Q is equal to 0. When Q is equal to 0, obviously the product PQ is equal to 0, but here this particular entity would be undefined. In any other case, the product and the quotient have the same sign. If one is negative, the other one is negative, and vice versa. If one is positive, the other one is positive, and vice versa. So know that if you don't know that. In math, that's how it works. The quotient and the product usually have the same sign. Okay? Because of that, number 3 is also true. So number 1 is true, number 3 is true. So as you can see here, the answer is D. That's the correct answer. So let's write that down. D is the correct answer. Okay, I hope you learned something from this question. A bit different, but I hope that you were able to, again, remind yourself of how absolute value works, and also maybe remind yourself how to deal with the product and the quotient, okay, of two numbers. Thank you for watching. This is a GMAT question from gmatquestions.org.